Greetings, Professor Nalepa here with Dubspot.com. In this week's Ableton Live tutorial, we're going to take a look at some techniques for preparing your live set for DJing, for live performance, or for creating a DJ mix. In particular, we'll look at some tips to make sure your songs are warped properly, some tricks for setting up your performance document, and also share some ideas for creating creative DJ mixes. So I've been in the studio this week with the legendary Photech. He's back with a killer new EP, some high-profile remixes, and a number of upcoming live shows and DJ mixes to deliver. Inspired by our sessions together, I thought I'd share some of these same tips with you. So, here's our session view, and we're going to start setting up our live performance document. First thing you do is you can go and preview tracks here, grab them from the browser here. Just grab that track, drag it in, you double-click on it, you look down below, and you can see Live's gone through and done its best to analyze this track. It's saying it's 150.03 BPM, which to me sounds like it's probably 150. So it's added all these extra warp markers. Odds are it's probably straight at 150, and we need to have this set up so that when I bring it in, it's going to be 150 and all the warp markers are lined up. So I'm going to turn off warp. I'm going to go to the project tempo up on the top and type in 150. And then you want to grab that playhead and drag it all the way to the very beginning of the song. And then you're going to right click on it and choose Warp 150 BPM from here. So now that I've done that, we can see there's the track. If I were to hit play and turn the metronome on, okay, you can hear that the metronome is a little bit off. Track's coming in late, and if I were to zoom in down here, you can see that there's actually some space here between this first transient marker, which is the downbeat of the 1, and the very beginning of this file. And this is due to the fact that this was professionally mastered. This is a remix by Salva of my track Sunflowers, and sent out to Twerk. Sean Hatfield, incredible talent at mastering, highly recommended. He just did Amon Tobin's record. He ran it out through his analog hardware, and oftentimes this adds a little bit of empty space at the beginning. So what you just need to do is right click on that transient marker, choose set 1-1 here. Okay? So that's the first thing you want to do, is make sure the 1 is lined up, make sure your BPM is accurate, and then check it against the metronome and see how it sounds. Okay, it's lining up really well, and then you just want to go throughout the song and zoom in and visually check to make sure that everything is kind of happening in time. Okay, and you can jump around. You hear the metronome is still on time. Alright, so this one's pretty much spot on. The only thing I would recommend if you're working with older tracks, so you're doing a throwback set or some sort of influences DJ set, you definitely want to go through and check out that there's not some sort of tempo drift. A lot of times people ran these older tracks out to tape, or they ran on a system that had not as rock solid of a clock, and then halfway through the song you'll notice that it starts to get off. So if that happens, you just go and add additional warp markers in the places that you need them so that it stays on point. Alright, so this track is 150. I'm going to go to this playhead here for this scene, this row, and I'm going to right click it and I'm going to choose rename, and I'm going to type in 150 BPM. And now you can see it turns the arrow orange, which means that when I trigger this play button, it's going to trigger the entire row, and it's going to change the tempo to 150. So let's say we were at a different tempo. I hit play here. It changed it to 150, and it started playing everything in that row. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to bring in another track now. You can either drag the tracks in here from the browser, but you can also grab them right out of your Finder, or you can just grab them right out of your iTunes. So I'm going to drag in this remix by St. Andrew, and it automatically made a new column. I'm just going to move that column next to each other. So now we have sort of the equivalent of the two decks, and you can see this track, it's gone and done a very similar thing. It's adding a bunch of warp markers. I know this track is 140. These are tracks that I'm very familiar with. So I'm going to turn warp off. Going to go up here, type in 140, and then I'm going to drag that playhead to the very beginning, that start point, and right click it, choose warp 140 BPM from here, and then same thing. This was a mastered track. You can see there's that little bit of area there. You just right click there, set 111 here. All right. So once you do these things, now you can go through and play two tracks that are different BPMs and have them time up properly. If I play it right in the middle, one track is actually playing back slower and one's playing back a little bit faster. So you want to make sure you have your warp mode set to complex. That's probably the best for full tracks. If you have it in repitch mode, it's going to change the pitch. So if you have two tracks that are supposed to that work really well because they're in the same key and you want to maintain that even though they're different tempos, then you really want to be in complex mode. Although sometimes you'll find that beats mode might have a little bit more punch. So I recommend just going through and listening at the different warp modes and finding which one sounds best for the track you're working with. So switch both of these guys here to complex mode. And so this second track that I brought in is 140 BPM. So I'm going to type in 140 BPM. And you can see now it changes and that arrow. So what I'm thinking is actually this 140 track is probably going to be a better one to start with. So I'm going to trigger this. And this guy's going along here. Now, the big thing when you're doing DJ set or preparing and practicing and rehearsing for your set is to really get the transitions down. So instead of waiting 5 minutes or whatever for this whole song to finish, if you move your mouse in the lower half of the waveform in the clip view and you click on it, it's going to jump ahead and allow you to just go and work on this transition. So then I'm going to wait till this happens and I click this play button and now it triggers this guy. But what if I wanted that track to keep playing? I wanted to change the tempo, but I didn't want this one to suddenly stop there. The reason it did is because it also triggered this square here, which is a stop button. So if I right click on that cell, I can remove the stop button. And now if this first clip is playing and we're here near the end and I'm practicing my set and I'm like, okay, here it comes now. Right? It kept playing because there's no stop button there. Only one track can play, one song can play at a time in a track, and if you trigger the stop button below it, it's going to stop the clip from playing. So key point here is make sure also you keep an eye on your levels. I usually go and pull this up and bring the level down, maybe like 6 dB for both of these guys. You just don't want your master volume to go into the red when you're playing because it's going to end up distorting it a little bit. All right, so one last thing is people often ask me about automating tempo for tracks. Maybe you want to get the little Louis thing, French Kiss, where you're going to slow the song down in the middle. So if I copy this and paste this guy in here, you can see down below here in the master column under the mixer, there's an option for automating the song tempo. Now the range is right below there, and right now it's 60 to 200 BPMs. So this track here is 140. So I'm going to change the tempo here to 140. And maybe there's a point somewhere in the middle where we really want to slow it down to halftime and then bring it back up. But trying to draw that in, if this range is set as such, is going to be challenging. So what I recommend doing is type in the high end range of the BPM you want to start at. So I'm going to type in 140. And then here you can put 70. And then basically now if I use the pencil tool, all I have to do is draw in that all the way to the end of that range, and it stops exactly at 70 and on the top end exactly at 140. Then you can get out of the pencil mode and have it so that it's going to actually, when it plays back, it will go through and slowly change in tempo. Right, so you can get really creative by automating the song tempo in your tracks, but a lot of times you actually have to do it because as you're mixing between different songs, they're at different tempos. So when you're creating a DJ mix, this whole song tempo automation section is actually going to be important to you, especially if you're using effects that are tempo based. So this is a few ideas for you for preparing your live performance document. The best way to have a great show is to actually come into it prepared, rehearse your set, and really important thing here is just really make sure you have all your warp markers done accurately and just save them after you've gone through and taken all the trouble to get that right, because now when you bring that song back in a second time, you're going to see that it's actually set to the correct BPM, the warp markers are on the right place. It's going to save you the headache of having to do that every time you want to work with this. So I'm Professor Nalepa. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with another tip next week.
Welcome to Dubspot. We believe in providing you hands-on experience right away. Whether you're completely new to music and want to turn the sounds in your head into a musical reality, or you're an experienced artist looking to refine your skills and add new tools to your arsenal, we're ready to meet you at your level. For students of all ages, all levels, and all styles of music, Dubspot is here to help you achieve your goals. With course offerings both online wherever you are and at our school in the heart of New York City, we are ready to guide you through the next phase of your musical transformation. Whether you want to produce music, DJ, or do both, you've come to the right place. Come explore Dubspot for yourself. Become a part of our community and make music.